Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got an update for you guys on this pretty active week that we've got coming ahead. We've got huge changes in just the weather pattern, but also climate change. I know it's a huge thing. That it's kind of molds our weather together, but we do actually have a very significant change in our climate, as you probably know already. El Nino is officially underway, and this is something that happens over a long period of time. So we're talking 2, 3, maybe even 4 to 5 years. And what this is going to be doing is that this is actually going to be causing a lot of differences in the tropics, especially, and kind of the location of all the storm systems across the U.S. So basically, an overview of El Nino means that there's a lot warmer waters out here in the Pacific, which means a lot colder waters out here in the Atlantic. But hold on, there is something that we have to deal with. Global warming. Now these waters have been under so much hot temperatures for so long that these are actually the waters have been so warm during the winter time that they haven't gotten cool. So they're still very, very warm. So that means that basically what we've got is now all of the water surrounding the US are warm. So, I mean, now it's not only the Atlantic that's warm, but also the Pacific. So, a typical El Nino would probably mean that there would be a lot more wind shear in this, around the tropics, and then there would be a lot less wind shear and more moisture in the Pacific. But we're still figuring out if we're going to see a lot, if that's going to tell us that we're going to see a lot less tropical storms or tropical systems in this area, or is it just going to be pretty much the opposite of that? So regardless, it's going to be a very weird summer and storm season. But stay with me throughout this season. Also, I got a few announcements just want to make. So I know I haven't uploaded in a long time. I'm really apologizing for that. We've done pretty good actually without really having much activity on the channel lately. So I actually am taking finals. I took finals yesterday, and then I'm gonna continue from Monday to Friday of next week. Taking finals, and then probably by next Friday we should be back in full swing because I'll be on summer vacation, so I won't have any schoolwork to deal with here. But if you guys were wondering, I know a few of you unsubscribed from the channel. I mean, I get that. When someone doesn't upload in a while, I can totally get that. But you know that if any of you were wondering why I wasn't uploading lately, that's because that's the reason. I didn't realize this wasn't animated. But I mean, anything else really? I mean, what you got is you've got storm system up here in the northwest that's spinning very slowly. Then your coastal low still trying to get out of the northeast. This is still bringing more thunderstorms. We had thunderstorms popping up. I think Thursday, or it might have been Wednesday, but we've had a few rounds of these storms in the Northeast, and some were actually pretty severe. We definitely had a storm that came through. We were under severe thunderstorm warning, gusty winds, a lot of clouds of ground lightning. I think I put up a short on my channel of a lightning strike I caught on video, but there was a lot. That was a pretty intense storm. And then just a lot of tropical downpours here in the southeast. Not tropical activity, but tropical downpours. Tropical activity. Also, we're going to be monitoring a chance for formation late, around late June. So we still have a few weeks to deal with this, but there's definitely going to be something happening in here. And so I guess it's about time we move on to our alerts. And you can see basically what we've got going on is we've got a lot of these air quality alerts out here. So you probably know about this already. But basically, what this scenario is that what we have here is we've been dealing with a lot of these wildfires up here in Canada. So you've got a lot of smoke from those wildfires because it's basically picture it as like a ring of fire. So basically, this is where the line of the fire is, and it's all spreading south. It's because this low pressure system offshore has winds that are pushing south. So those winds are pushing the fire south, and those fires are obviously spreading. And so the smoke always blows the way the wind is blowing. I mean, that's common sense. So what that tells you is that upstate New York and the entire Northeast is just going to be covered in smoke. But what people didn't realize is how thick that smoke was. I mean, Canada, this part of Canada is not very far away from the Northeast. So it was still very thick. It did not have much, uh, a huge place to travel. But once it got into the Northeast, I'll tell you, I experienced it, and it's a little smoky out there today. It's a lot better than it was yesterday and the day before that. But I mean, it was very thick. We didn't see the sky for I think 3.5 days. But the sky, I'm not joking. I'm not even joking. For a few hours, um, I think it was on Thursday for a few hours, or it might have been Friday, or sorry, Wednesday. For a few hours, the sky was actually like orange. It was very, very odd looking, and the sun turned a mix of red and orange, and it was just a very, very odd day. Along with those thunderstorms, that dry lightning that sparked up a few wildfires here in the Northeast. But I mean, it was wild, and the air quality. Let me tell you, it choked you. I mean, if you inhaled that air, those particles are very dangerous because the wildfire smoke has tiny particles that they're pretty much toxic. So if you inhale too much of that, it's basically not inhaling air, and so your lungs can't take it. So everyone was literally everyone. We got out of school, and at 3 o'clock, this was when it was the worst, and it had to be 3 o'clock because that's exactly when we get out of school. So everyone's trying to run to their bus because people are choking, and so everyone was covering up their face with masks uh and like sweatshirts. So it was very, 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 very weird and pretty scary too. But the air quality was up to 300, I think, at its worst. So it was very dangerous. But anyways, we still have an air quality alert for the entire state of New Jersey, Delaware, um, and Pennsylvania, and then a big chunk of Ohio, a lot of Indiana, and then just a bunch of scattered areas around that. You guys are still under that air quality alert, but the smoke is getting a little bit less thick, just or dense, I should say, because it's been pushing south for such a long time that it actually kind of you know fizzles out. I don't know if you want to put it that way. But if we get back to our alerts, you can see that you got a huge flood watch up here in the northwest. That's mainly because we've been seeing a lot more precipitation in the western U.S. than in the eastern U.S. because of this death ridge, which is basically a brick wall right in the middle of the central U.S. and it's stopping all these storms to move into the eastern U.S. But that death ridge has actually collapsed, and it collapsed today. So what that's going to tell you is that we're going to see a lot more action in the eastern U.S. starting now. Um, and so everything else going on, got a heat advisory for parts of southern Texas. I mean, summer's here and it's here to stay. I mean, I really think that this is going to be a quite impressive summer in terms of temperatures. I think we're going to see a lot of records being broken just because that our climate has been warming every single year, and so this year is just probably going to be a little bit worse. So we're going to move on to I think this is the northwest or northeast, I should say. And we're just going to be briefly looking at the NAM 3KM model and just kind of looking at what it wants to say for today's forecast. And you can see that, as of 3 p.m. today, I think right now it's around 5 o'clock, you can see that you've got a lot of showery and stormy activity going on up here. None of this should be severe. Maybe some scattered gusty winds and some small hail with this. Um, but really, I mean, these are just going to be some independent thunderstorm cells that are just going to be marching their way across the northeastern states closer to the coastline. But once we get into the overnight and evening hours of tonight, they will fizzle out. So just before entering, like, the I 95 corridor, crossing the I 95 corridor, so like the New York City area, the storms should either impact at late at night and be very weak, or they'll not even exist anymore. But you still got a low pressure system hanging on right here in around New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, that kind of area. And then these storms will push offshore, and then around Sunday into Monday is when your next round of storms will come through, and those have a chance to be severe. But we'll leave that for a future update. And so we're going to move on to the Northwest. And you can see the Northwest looks definitely a lot more concerning than the Northeast. You got a lot of rainfall showing up here with three dueling low pressure systems controlling this entire system. And what that means is that this is an entire powerhouse of storms that's going to be charging across the western U.S., and it's going to be like this for a few days. But all we got today is that pretty much everyone's going to see a storm or two. I mean, I know it's pretty much over. It's pretty overwhelming seeing the entire, like region covered in these storms. But let me tell you, if you're on the screen, if your location is on the screen or your state's on the screen, then you're going to experience at least one relatively strong storm. Unless you're in like the Seattle area, maybe areas farther to the coastline, you guys will probably experience more showery weather than thunderstorm activity. But really, this may be a bit severe. But the biggest chance you have for severe storms is off to the west, or sorry, off to the east. So I wouldn't really be worried if you're on the screen, if about severe storms tonight. So just kind of relax and just watch out for some gusty winds and some flooding rainfall, but just try not to schedule any plans for outdoor plans for later this evening. Um, so we're going to move on to the south central U.S., and we're just going to be talking about the severe weather potential that we've got going on for the next few days. Now, like I said earlier, our death rate has finally fallen, so we're going to be kind of talking about what these firsthand effects are of the falling of this ridge. So you could see that pretty much all of today it's been very, very dry, although later, like late this afternoon into early evening hours, you'll start seeing these storms bubbling up. And you can see that the main attraction is right here in the Texarkana area, so Arkansas, kind of that borderline. And these are just going to continue growing and multiplying. So now you've got storms stretching from south central Texas all the way into Nebraska, and these are just going to be plowing through. They shouldn't There shouldn't be enough to form a frontal line. So very scattered severe storms. It's very there's a very little chance that you'll be in the way of this. But if you are, you'll most likely see maybe a half hour to an hour of relatively severe storms, because the I think the SPC, I think it's up to a slight risk today. But they're just saying that if you're in the way of this system, you just gotta watch out because these storms are gonna pack a punch. But I mean, this is already getting into like tomorrow. This is already midday tomorrow, 1 p.m. You are seeing some of those strong storms starting. The tri-state borderline of Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. That is where the strongest storms, in my opinion, will be, and that's where everything begins. And this is the main. This is the main attraction. The secondary line of storms. This is obviously a lot more concerning. This is where you're going to see severe storms. Sorry about that if you heard any background noises. But anyways, so basically what we're going to see is we're going to see these storms continuing into tomorrow and then later this weekend, and then maybe even the early weekdays of tomorrow, next week. But regardless, you just gotta stay safe with these if you're in the way of this. And so, really, what you just gotta do is stay safe and check your local forecast for any updates on these storms. And obviously, you could rewatch this video if you missed any important details. But really, this shouldn't be too bad. But we will look at the SPC and kind of get the full breakdown of what these storms will bring. So that's gonna just bring us to the SPC, obviously, and I'm gonna put it back to day one. And so this is the outlook for today. You're only up to a slight risk. It's a level 2 out of 5, but it's for a pretty significant area. Doesn't look like there's a lot of people in this area. There's only, just under 150,000 people. But this is over mainly rural areas, so there shouldn't be too many people in the way of this. But major cities including Guaymas, Oklahoma, Lamar, Colorado, and Liberal, Kansas. So you guys definitely have a chance for severe weather today. And even the surrounding areas, like any of you in this dark green, this marginal risk, you guys could definitely also see the severe weather. Even you can also see that this stretches down from that same area in Nebraska down into south central Texas, and then there's also along the panhandle of Florida down the eastern coastline of Florida. There is a chance for some of that severe weather. And regardless, pretty much the entire U.S. could see some precipitation today, but mainly the northeast, bits of the southeast, and the central plains will see that severe weather. Tornado threat, only up to a 5% risk. So really the tornado threat shouldn't be too bad today. Wind threat, you're only up to a 15% risk. It's for that I think it's the same exact area, so the same cities, and the 5% risk for damaging wind gusts, that is also in that same marginal risk area. Hail threat, only 5% risk. So really, that just shows you that today is not going to be too bad in terms of severe weather. Tomorrow is the main show. You're already up to an enhanced risk. Maybe we'll see a moderate risk, a level 4 to 5. I think the last time we saw an enhanced risk was like a month ago. So it'll be a little on the exciting side to see, kind of this severe weather returning. But this includes major cities like Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, Arlington, Texas, Plano, Texas, and Garland, Texas. So really, the tri-state border of Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana, you guys will all see some of the severe weather, but mainly off to the west, closer to central Texas, where the most severe weather will be. Then for the surrounding areas of the enhanced risk, you're up to a slight risk. It's level 2 out of 5, including Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, Jackson, Mississippi, Pasadena, Texas, and Lafayette, Louisiana. And then you've got a marginal risk for a little bit of a bigger area than today, but it's still pretty much the general area. Tomorrow's tornado threat, only a 2% risk, so maybe a tornado or two, but it really shouldn't be too. This is less than what we're seeing today. So I'd be very surprised if we actually did see a tornado touchdown tomorrow. Wind threat, this is probably what you're going to see the most of tomorrow. 30% risk for that same enhanced risk area. And then also for that slight risk, you're up to a 15% risk. And then for the 5% risk, it's the same as the marginal risk. Hail threat, you've already got a hatched risk, including that 30% and the western half of the 15% risk. And basically what that means is that areas farther west, closer to central Texas, so like the Dallas area, you guys will probably see the more stronger damaging, or I should say larger damaging hail. So those larger hailstones and hail sizes will be off to the west. And then we go out to the day 3 outlook. You're only up to a slight risk, but you can see that this is shifting east. And probabilistically, you're up to a 15% risk for severe weather. I think this would be for Sunday. And we're basically just going to be looking. The rest of the update is going to be focusing on what we've got coming ahead. So we're going to be looking at the tropics very closely because we do have a very strong storm signal from potentially a major hurricane. And so we're going to start off with this first system that's going to be impacting. This is our Sunday system. And you can see it starts out just west of the Ohio River Valley, then moves through the Ohio River Valley and into the northeast. This is going to bring maybe some mid-Atlantic thunderstorms that could turn severe. But this is going to run right through the northeast, the heartland of the northeast, and then kind of spin, fizzle, and spin out off to offshore. Then you got a little tiny piece of energy left over from this that's trying to form something, and maybe it will give a splash of severe weather for the Central Plains farther south though. And also notice that this is forming and setting up farther east. So that's going to tell you that there's going to be a higher threat for severe weather farther east because this is already showing you that these storms definitely are capable of making it to the east coast, but also they're going to have a shorter time to get there, which means that they'll still be strong. But man, are you going to see a lot of rainfall and a lot of severe weather potentials next week? This is like the middle of next week. Look at this: Georgia, Louisiana. Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and maybe even Florida, parts of northern Florida. You guys will all get hammered on the 16th around that time with some severe storms and some tropical downpours. But here comes another system. It's like a frontal kind of system. Just a lot of rainfall for the Northeast. Nothing too bad. And then here come the tropics. This is where we start seeing a storm starting to form around Central America and South America, and this is where we start seeing the storms start. So watch this. You already see this forming in the Caribbean, around the Caribbean. This is moving through northwestern Cuba. You're already down to a 969 millibar low pressure, and right off the bat, you could tell that this is very, very precise and sharp rotation and closing in on that rotation. Look at this circle right in the middle. That is a good signature for a hurricane. But let me tell you, this is not the first time we've seen this. We've seen this for at least 5 days straight on the GFS. The GFS has not taken down the idea that there will be a major hurricane sometime near the end of June. But this is very, very strong. I mean, you can see it's already dropping to 92. Sorry, I think 60, 89 was, sorry, I thought this said 969, but this is actually saying 989 millibar low pressure. So this is like around 8 p.m. the 19th. So the night of the 19th is where this could supposedly make landfall in Cuba. It's still in Cuba around the middle of the night. So just the beginning of June the 20th. I don't know what day of the week that is. But this is looking like it could make another direct impact on the western coast of Florida, almost like Tropical Storm Ian, or Hurricane Ian, I should say. But the thing with Ian was that it actually moved away from Cuba and scraped the coastline, then took a sharp turn west, slammed into the central panhandle of Florida, then made another landfall in the southeast in the Carolina coastline, and then moved into the Ohio River Valley. But with this, where the GFS takes this storm, is that it actually wants it to go through southern Florida, like the Keys, and then wants it to move just offshore of the East Coast. Look at this. You're going to have very, very high waves along the Carolina coast, but it is very close to scraping up the coastline. So, I mean, we're definitely going to see some major changes with this. But this could be a direct impact on the eastern coast of the United States, and this could really be a major hurricane. It's still down to 969 millibar low pressure. You don't know. I mean, that is very, very strong. We do not usually see that strong of a low pressure system with any of these storms. So that right off the bat tells you that this could be a major hurricane. But maybe it will actually edge out and scrape the coast of North Carolina. But it's looking like this could even get close to the northeast. So maybe eastern Long Island, Cape Cod, that kind of area, that general area, the northeastern coastline could be at risk of getting not directly hit, but hit pretty badly by this system. But we just kind of looked at the entire path of this, and one thing that's also very interesting that the GFS has been arguing with itself for days about where this is going. We've got the timing down, the general timing we've got down, but where this is going is pretty much we have no idea. This could either be heading up the coast, going slightly out to sea, slamming into Florida, or take a turn and slam southern Texas and the Louisiana area. And so that's going to take us to the 6Z GFS. This might not tell us exactly, show us exactly, this hitting that area. But here it is. You see that this is soaking up as much moisture as it can right in the heart of the Gulf of Mexico. This is like 85-degree ocean temperatures. Drops to a 962 millibar low pressure. I think the slight 962 millibar low pressure just before slamming the southern coast of Texas. And even when this makes landfall, it's going to make landfall somewhere around the overnight and morning hours of anywhere from the 20th to the 24th. But if I think what we're gonna see is that if this makes a turn and makes landfall in Texas, we'll see this make landfall a little bit later in the season, a little bit later in June, so maybe like the 24th or the 25th. And then if it hits Florida, we'll see it maybe the 19th, the 18th, or the 20th. But this really is just gonna be plowing through. Little bit it gets a little bit weakened, but it still is going for northern Texas, and maybe we'll slam into Houston. But then this very dry, this like maybe we'll see a trough here. But this very dry weather out here in the Central Plains will just stop this in its tracks, and then this will just fizzle out in a few days. But there is a very concerning look on this system, and we're just going to be quickly looking at these potential impacts that this could bring. So remember, this is as of now what the GFS is saying is that this will move off the coast of the eastern U.S. and then it will also make a direct impact in Florida. This is not expected. I'm not expecting this. I'm not expecting anything except a possible hurricane. That's all I'm expecting. But it's way too early to make any final forecasts on what this storm will bring. All we know is that there's a good chance that we will get a hurricane out of this. So, this is going to show kind of the cone and path of this. And so I want to make sure that if you are in this cone showing up here of these wind gusts, I want you to be prepared and closely watch this segment of the video. But watch as this moves through Florida. You can see that you're almost up to hurricane strength wind gusts. This is the max wind gust forecast. So you're up to 62 miles an hour around, Key West, Florida, that general area. Moves out of Florida, and then you start seeing those, hurricane force wind gusts. This very light brownish tan color, this is anywhere from 80 to 95 miles an hour. So this is more significant. This is considered a significant Category 1 hurricane. Then you start seeing these pinks, this little dot of pink right here. This is where you could see a Category 2 storm. So we're talking slightly, strong hurricane. And I'm going to circle the area where we'll see the strongest wind gusts. I know we haven't looked at it yet, this area here, but I think this circled area in blue is what, if we had to finalize our decision on what this storm would bring with this forecast, I think we would see the strongest wind gusts right in this area. But remember, this is not a forecast. This is just, a update. We're just looking at what the models are saying as of now. But this definitely carries on for a few hundred miles for wind gusts that could reach 100 to 110 miles per hour. Remember, this is a strong hurricane. This is a hurricane, not a tropical storm. This is a hurricane Category 1 or Category 2. But this continues and kind of just bails on the eastern coast and moves way off to the east. But if I had to, kind of choose a cone for what this is showing up on for the GFS, as of now, it looks like the possible cone of this could be something that looks a little bit like this. And this is not for the path, the precise path of it, but just for the wind gust cone. So anyone outside of this cone should probably escape the strongest wind gust. But you can see that even though this isn't going to, completely scrape off the eastern coast, you're still going to have wind gusts that could almost reach, tropical storm force wind gusts. So across the entire eastern seaboard, you could definitely see those wind gusts approaching 30 to 40 miles an hour. But this is a very interesting storm. I know we're going to be talking about this for a long time, but I'm really wondering what this is going to turn out looking like. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, share, comment, and subscribe. If not subscribed to the channel, we'll see you guys next video. So we're definitely going to continue watching the tropics, but we've got that death ridge that's falling apart. So now those, the severe storms can finally enter the eastern U.S., and we're going to start seeing some chaos with our new weather pattern. So stay safe out there, guys, and have a great day.